This is for the Fed.
Maybe I'll just read it.
I thought she did a good job.
Active employees.
I thought she did a good job on that response to the union.
Yes.
I basically told Sadie, I was like, I'm
No,
with
she
the
has no nonsense, but no, she doesn't alienate them like
He actually
you know.
encouraged me to go along.
You know, Sandra would take
And I'm sure you
the crazy stuff and then lose her credibility, lose their ability, and those smart enough not to do that.
I don't have the space.
Surprised they took her on that issue.
That's what they do.
Maybe they were testing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I made that case in 2.5 minutes.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Are the cameras on? Well, let's get going. Select Board meeting for November 19, prior to town meeting in the Brookline High School, room 214. Any announcements or updates? No? Okay. Public comments? Any public comments? No? Okay, I guess I can't eat my lunch. Okay. Let's get going. Miscellaneous, approval of miscellaneous items, license, vouchers, and contracts. Question of approving the following transfers within the building department budget. Full-time personnel town to building cleaning services town, $70,000.
Good evening. Just some background on this, these accounts. Several years ago, we took outside contractor money and brought them inside the building department and created 3 new HVAC positions. And we have had a lot of trouble filling those positions. So over the last 3 years, we have been using repair and maintenance money and some of our own guys on overtime to do these small repairs. And we're at the point where we need more additional staff and outside contractors to assist. We have been working with HR over the past few years to try to get these positions upgraded. We feel that the hourly rate is the issue in trying to fill the positions. So for the short term, we did work with Justin and Melissa on these transfers. We're going to request more funding, but since we're kind of in the middle of the fiscal year, cut that number down. This is both a town school thing, so it is a 75-25 split. And so we're just requesting that transfer so we can use outside contractors to come in and assist with HVAC, matter of maintenance, and just regular repair and maintenance.
Right. Okay, any questions? Any other explanation? What do we pay?
Can I just clarify? Sure. You said 70,000. I have the total transfer of 92,500.
You know what, I don't know if you have the.
There was a revised.
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
revised
I'm
calendar,
sorry.
It's this plus this, so, it's, Dan, it's 69,375, and then another 23,125. Is that
Yes,
what you
correct,
have?
yes.
Right.
The larger numbers
Okay.
from the school and the smaller numbers from the towns.
And what's the total?
92,500.
So, if I may ask, what is the hourly rate we're offering for this job?
It's in the mid to high 20s.
And this is a fairly, it's cleaning services, but it's not.
This is all HVAC. HVAC.
This is how.
Okay, so this is fairly,
Craftsman,
yeah.
Yeah. And again, we have been working with HR to try to find the right number. The issue is all of our tradesmen are on the same pay scale, so that's what's creating the problem is we
Getting everyone-
can't put everybody up to that.
Right.
So we're working that out.
Okay. Any questions? No? I move approval of the following transfers within the building department from full-time personnel town to building cleaning services town. Total amount $92,500. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
We have, okay, is this a separate one? Repair and maintenance
Yeah,
school?
no, that's not.
Okay.
That's old. You want to use it?
Yeah. Question, we're not doing that one. Question of approving amendment number 1 to contract PW 19-17 self-evaluation and AD assessment program in the amount of $113,250 to Beta Group, Inc.
Did you, I'm sorry, did you hit 3B?
3B, I thought that was crossed out.
I didn't know. I was just, that's
Okay.
my own notes.
Okay,
So you
let
need to
me
do
go
that.
back, we'll go
Yeah.
back after that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 items before you tonight. The first one is amendment to contract PW 19-17. In September of 2018, you awarded a contract to Beta Engineers for a pilot program to do an assessment of our ADA compliance with our sidewalks and our accessibility ramps, the handicap ramps. The pilot program was funded at $28,600. And with that money, we were able to complete the inventory for 5.13 miles of sidewalk evaluation and 105 curb ramps. What happens next is that they will roll out a transition plan to identify the deficiencies in those to make them all ADA compliant, and then we will put a plan together to move forward and actually correct them in the future. However, the pilot was so successful that we asked the engineer to then provide us with an amendment to the contract to do the rest of the entire town. So we asked him to do that. The item before you is amendment number 1 to that original contract, and that's to do an additional 158 miles of sidewalk and 1,900 curb ramps, and to assess those for compliance with ADA requirements. And then to include the entire town at that point into a transition plan that will identify all our deficiencies and allow us to put a plan together for a future remediation of all of that work. We were pretty excited about rolling this program out because it kind of puts us ahead of the curve in terms of ADA compliance before we find ourselves in a situation where we're so far in non-compliance that we have an issue. So we're excited to continue this program and ask your approval to for this amendment number 1 in the amount of $113,250.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question. Have we gone after the ADA grant for municipalities?
I'm not sure, I don't believe we have yet, but that would be something that we would probably look forward to when we actually be in remediation.
Excellent.
So compliments to you. I got a number of calls from members of the Commission for the Disabled about this. And when I explained that this was a proactive attempt to build on past successes, they were impressed. So you're one step ahead of the Commission for the Disabled, and that is not easy to do. So
Right where we want to be. Sure.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, move approval of amendment number 1 to contract PW 19-17 self-evaluation and ADA assessment program in the amount of $113,250 to Beta Group, Inc. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, question of awarding and executing contract PW 19-9 sanitary sewer improvements to Aqualine Utility, Inc. in the amount of $369,427.25.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This contract is the next successive contract in our sewer rehabilitation program that we've been working on for many years. This contract, we had bids open on October 1st of this year. We had 4 bidders. The low bidder, Aquiline, has worked with us in the past, and it comes highly recommended. The scope of work for this contract will consist of replacing about 300 feet of 8-inch and 10-inch sewer pipe, which is included in 8-point repairs in different locations throughout town. The list of streets includes Grace Terrace, Briggs Road, Henry Street, Naples Road, Bellingham Road, Claflin Path, Oakland Road, Prince Street, and Parkland Street. These are all spot repairs that are deemed critical to repair at this point. The contract also includes the construction of 2 new sewer manholes, and the low bid has been vetted, and the contract is accurate, the extensions are accurate, and we recommend award to Aquiline Utility in the amount of $369,427.25.
Okay, any questions? Move approval of executing contract PW 19-9, sanitary sewer improvements to Aquiline Utility, Inc., in the amount of $369,427.25. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Question of approving and executing a contract amendment to PW 19-22, feasibility study of the Davis Path Footbridge to compensate the town's consultant for their cost to purchase railroad protective liability insurance as required by the MBTA in the amount of $3,060.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The original contract was awarded to Lyro Engineers out of New York. This was for the feasibility study of the Davis Path Footbridge. This was to determine inspection and structural assessment of the footbridge and to recommend how to proceed in the future as to whether it's more economic to replace the bridge or repair the bridge. Part of the inspection requires our consultant to access the MBTA right away so that he can inspect the underneath side of the bridge for structural deficiencies. We've been coordinating with the MBTA and have scheduled the work to coincide with a shutdown of the Green Line that they had previously scheduled for their other work, so as to take advantage of the continued shutdown on that. This is scheduled tentatively for November 23rd. There is a rain date involved if it's needed. But before our engineer can access the MBTA right away, he has to purchase this railroad protective liability insurance. This was not included in the original contract because at the time we weren't sure just what the amount would be and the extent of it would be. So that's the reason for the amendment in the amount of $3,060.
We were aware that we'd be using the MBTA right away, though.
Yes, but the documents, the T was not forthcoming with the documents at the time, so we had no idea, no knowledge of what the estimated cost would be for what they would require for the permitting and the insurance.
Could you pull the microphone closer, Chairman?
Any questions? Hearing none, move approval and executing of a contract amendment to contract PW 19-22, feasibility study of the Davis Path Footbridge to compensate the town's consultant for their cost to purchase railroad protective liability insurance as required by the MBTA in the amount of $3,060. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Let's go back to item 3B. Question of accepting a gift in the amount of $200 from All Saints Parish of 1773 Beacon Street, Brookline, to support the activities of Hidden Brookline Walking Tour.
Yes.
Mr. Jelena.
I don't know if folks are aware, but Hidden Brookline has been around for 15 years. And during the course of that time, through the leadership of Barbara Brown, they have made some extraordinary contributions to the town of Brookline. one of the most important ones is the Hidden Brookline Walking Tour. And what that does, it takes us to key areas in Brookline that were had significant, significant contributions and actually history of enslaved Africans, Americans, and Native Americans within the town of Brookline. Part of that, though, too, is also celebrating the achievements of those folks in the Brookline community. The walking tour has become very successful. Barbara is stretched to the gills. I think that's a term, I'm not sure. But but we also recognize that a lot of the folks are sort of moving on in their lives, and so we're actually looking to actually get new people to join Hidden Brookline, but more importantly, preserve the tour in any way possible. And one of those ways is through technology. In working with BIG, we are actually in the process of making a virtual reality video. And two components to that would be the audio, augmented audio, where when you walk by a place, it'll let you know some historical facts about that location. But also the virtual reality one too, where you can actually, when you walk by a place, you can actually document, and some historic facts will come up as you walk by. And so this contribution will actually help move us forward in that direction. So hopefully you accept a gift, and hopefully get more gifts coming in to help with the project.
We always accept gifts.
Okay.
And this is a good one. Any questions?
I just have a comment. I think this is a fantastic idea. I've taken that tour. It's terrific. I'm hoping my grandchildren will want to do it soon. I want them to be a little bit older, but it's really, really, really good. So I would recommend anyone who hasn't taken it to sign up. You do it through Brookline Adult and Community Ed. At least you did when I. And so I'm all for this. I think it's terrific. Is there a way to coordinate the? I remember that the path that we went on was not always so smooth, and I'm wondering if there was any way to coordinate with DPW about making sure that some of those corners and sidewalks, et cetera, are more accessible than they are now.
We're actually going to have our ADA coordinator take the tour and make note of that, so we'll get that information to DPW.
Good.
That's great. Any other?
I'll just say thank you to the parish for the generous donation. This is a valued community resource, and it takes all of us to make sure it's available for folks going forward. And I think developing an app or a virtual reality tour is a great way to memorialize the great tour that exists today and expand capacity for folks to enjoy it going forward.
And like I said, if folks know someone who's interested in more of the historic nature of Brookline, please let them call me. And we're looking for members to repopulate this group. Thank you.
So, move approval of the acceptance of a gift in the amount of $200 from All Saints Parish, 1773 Beacon Street, Brookline, to support the activities of Hidden Brookline Walking Tour. Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Human Resources, question of authorizing the filling of a vacancy in the position of Benefits Administrator, grade T-01 of the Human Resources Department. Ms. Braga.
Hi. The position is a T4, not a T1, just for
Did I say
clarification.
T1? I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the position is currently held by Jessica Rojas. We have unfortunately lost her to the town of Foxborough, and she'll be moving on shortly before Thanksgiving. And so we're looking to fill this position, and that is for our health benefits, and looking to rework that position so that it is more robust in providing information to our members through both retirees as well as our active employees.
Great. Any questions?
I'll just make a comment that the budget code listed on the sheet doesn't match the chart of accounts that I've seen before, so somebody just may want to check it. So, a super technical term, query. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or catches? Move approval of authorizing the filling of a vacancy in the position of Benefits Administrator grade TO4 in the Human Resources Department. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Rick, okay, are you here for the Recreation Department
I am.
too? Okay. Question of authorizing the filling of vacancies in the Recreation Department. Recreation Leader, Assistant Aquatics Director, GN07. Assistant Recreation Leader, Aquatic Supervisor, GN05. Ms.
So
Margaret.
this is the pool assistant director and the rec supervisor for the pool. So the main lifeguard supervisor at the pool. So we have both of those vacant at the time. We have Deb Cohen, who's our pool director. We have a vacancy in the assistant pool director, and we expect that it will be a promotional opportunity for our pool supervisor to move up, and then have an opening for someone to move into the pool supervisor or lifeguard supervisor position. So hence why we would be advertising those.
Great.
We have over 85,000 people who go through the pool each year, so obviously a need to fill that as soon as possible.
Any questions? Okay, I move approval of authorization to hire or filling the vacancies in the Recreation Department for a Recreation Leader, Assistant Aquatics Director, and Assistant Recreation Leader, Aquatic Supervisor. All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you for your support.
Now, the fun begins. Warrant articles. We're being asked to reconsider our wise decisions of the past.
Yes, so we have a few articles that are still in play, I guess. We have Article 4, which is the Driscoll School appropriation. The board currently is in alignment with the advisory committee at $108.8 million. In the combined reports, which you should have in your binder, there are two other motions, and then I'm hearing that there's other motions that are layered on top of that. So we have the petitioner's motion, which is found in your combined reports. And then we have the Friedman motion, which is also in your combined reports. And then I'm hearing that there's a move to divide the question around the fossil fuel piece of the petitioner motion. The petitioner's here, and who's moving it? Is it Warner? Warner's moving the question of, or the division of the question. And they're both here, and they can kind of speak to where they're at with these proposals.
Okay. I'd like to add that the select board vote was 108 million. It did not require the installation of offices. It just urged the consideration of that. I think some of the materials that I read this morning indicated otherwise. Is that your reading, Mr. Franco? Because you were one who was pushing that.
Yeah, correct. I think it was urging continued investigation and evaluation of the appropriateness. There was no specific requirement that offices be a component of the renovated, expanded, rebuilt Driscoll School.
So, Petitioner Stananian.
Thank you, Chair Green. Yeah, so it's true that the motion does not require the addition of the motion that the Select Board currently is moving does not require the addition of admin space, but considering that the cost was presented as 2.2, from anywhere from 2.2 to $4.6 million, and the budget was not increased to accommodate that, it seemed prudent, and I think even Harry Friedman agrees that the provision of office space is not actually fiscally prudent for the given budget and for the requirements that you'd have for office space in the site. Of course, leaving that out of the appropriation, again, is mostly just a guide. It doesn't prevent office space from being added during detailed design if it turns out that there is flexibility in the budget. But it seems that as a matter of stating intent, that reducing the budget while still we're asking for more space seemed a little bit contradictory.
So in what, okay, explain to me, maybe I'm missing something. Reducing the budget, I mean, we
So-
came in $108 million. That was the original petition.
So the original December 2018 budget was $108 million. As Ben Lummis presented before, the best estimate of construction cost inflation for the new completion date of the project is a 10% increase to $119 million. And that seems reasonable. It's neither at the high range of bids that we actually see in fiscal year 2028, or 2020 rather, but it is higher than the sort of historical trend of 8%. So if you grapple with the realities of construction cost inflation and you have a project which now would cost $119 million to build as it was proposed and designed in December and May, and you try to build it for $108 million, you have to cut some things. The two obvious budget items that could be cut without sacrificing the educational mission of the building, the educational scope, which I think both Ben Franco and Raul referred to after midnight last Tuesday, would be the fossil fuel-free amendment and the structured parking. I don't think it's this board's goal to cut the fossil fuel-free feature of the building, certainly. And so the budget I proposed took that 119, cut those both off to bring you back down to 109, and then explicitly added back the fossil fuel-free allocation so that we can assure the town that we're not sacrificing educational mission for the fossil fuel-free aspect of the building. And that's my reasoning for proposing the $115 million version. Certainly, once that budget is passed, that, if you step back, that represents an overall 6% construction cost increase, rather than the 8 or 10% construction cost increase. And so there's some hope that you could achieve some savings elsewhere and perhaps not need to cut all the structured parking for the building, or perhaps you could find money to add office space if you find other efficiencies. But it seems like that's a reasonable budget that allows us to do what we want to do educationally with the building and sustainably with the building.
Any questions, comments, observations?
The fossil fuel free was included in the 108.
Yes.
And I don't see how we need to increase it by that much money in order to get to the number that, and you're cutting structured parking. Is that what you're doing? You're cutting structured parking?
Yeah, the two major line items from the budget that you were presented by Superintendent Lummis.
Mm-hmm. So it disturbs me that somehow after the vote, and there seemed like another opportunity to increase the budget by attacking on an allowance for fossil fuel free when it was already in the budget. So that makes no sense to me. And I'm disturbed by that.
Certainly, if you prefer to think of it as a 6% construction cost inflation increase, that is fine as well. I hope that it's not, that 115 is a significant cut from the school department's proposed 119 budget, and so I think there is, the message here is that we are trying to cut costs, but the way I've structured it sort of assures the town that we're not doing it on the back of the educational mission of the building.
My
Well,
concern, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I still, I've never seen a project in this town that was 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away from a vote that it was not, we didn't know what we were buying. And it's very disturbing that we're having this vote And we can't really go to the voters and say, well, this is what you're getting, because you don't know what you're getting now. And I'm very bothered by that. I think that's the wrong approach to doing these overrides. You just don't go to the voters and say, well, we need, very frankly, I have some problems with the numbers that have been given to us. And we haven't had any examination of those numbers by our finance committee, or very little, because of the timing. And it's very difficult to analyze what's, unless we want to say, okay, well, the architect must be right. But sometimes in the process of examining these things, we come across issues. We know we can cut things, we know we can do things to save on the cost of the building without affecting the educational mission. So I'm really disturbed by the entire process here. I think it's wrong. I think we shouldn't put things like this before the voters when we don't know what we're doing.
I hear your concern. I will note that the 8% construction cost increase was on the slides we presented back in December 2018. Not I presented, the town presented, as a reason for their bid at that time. I went back and looked at those slides recently, and they didn't have this year, obviously, on them. The increase from 8 to 10% was caused by a very significant, if you add the fiscal year 2020 projects to it, there's a very significant increase in the cost of projects to MSBA. That's not anything that we're making up. It's not the numbers I'm cherry picking. That's the Massachusetts State Building Authority. So we have certainly been, on our part, very consistent since May, and we've taken some criticism for this $175,000 a week number, but that 8% increase has been discussed from the beginning. And I think there is broad agreement that there is construction cost increase. From my concern, I'm worried about the opposite. It's clear that if we were to vote the school committee budget, we'd be getting the building that we'd all discussed in December and in May. When we start reducing the budget, now you're asking town meeting to vote for something without knowing what's to be cut. What is this building which we've cut $20 million off of? Is it still the building that we voted in May and December? And so that's my concern. The budget I proposed is a budget that, except for structured parking, I can confidently say can be built for that amount, and it is substantially the design that town meeting approved.
Has the advisory committee reconsidered? I just wanted to check they haven't taken
They're scheduled for 6:40, I think. I might have to be 2 meetings at once.
Yeah, my concern is that we got a lot of stuff today that we're supposed to digest. And I'm not sure that this board can make a competent decision within the time frame that we have before town meeting. And maybe it makes more sense to let town meeting go through the discussion of these articles instead of us making a sort of half-baked decision one way or the other. What do you think?
Well, so let me say, even at 115, there's going to have to be some efficiencies and redesign because we're still approximately $4 million less than the cost of the May 2019 plan. So I would love to spend $119 million on this building. The reality is that we've got a number of different projects teed up to go over the next couple of years. Pierce is the next one. There's continued interest in locating a site for a potential 9th elementary school. And I've got my eye on the cumulative bill here. And I am sympathetic to the fact that this project was not approved in May and now there's cost escalations, but we made a commitment to $108 million in May, and I think we need to live to that commitment in December of this year when the project goes before the voters for approval.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think, like the chair said, we'll see what town meeting thinks about that very question, Ben, in just a bit. And town meeting may think differently about it. I mean, this is, the cost of delay. I mean, this is what we see here, and it may not be the 119. I appreciate that Petitioner has attempted to balance what was presented by the superintendent as a $119 million project now, and to try to find a way to bring it down to 115. But at this point, I can't imagine building what the town expected to build back in May at 108 at that same amount right now. I mean, I don't know how we're going to do it without it being a substantially different project that doesn't address some of the issues that we expected it to before. But maybe town meeting will think differently about that.
Yeah, so I appreciate that town meeting's going to weigh in on this and give us some guidance. I'll just close the loop by saying that it was never my intention to not build this school as a fossil fuel free. I always was committed to the Driscoll and projects going forward in the foreseeable future as being fossil fuel free. So while we may disagree on what the exact program is and on how much money we should spend, I think we are united in our commitment to fossil fuel free buildings.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yep.
I'll just conclude by saying it's been a very frustrating process coming up with Plan B. And I completely understand where Ms. Heller is coming from, that we're still in this flux of we don't exactly know what we're getting, because if we stick to the 108.8 number, some changes will probably have to happen. Whereas if we increase the number due to inflation, people will feel like we changed the number on them because the 108.8 had been advertised, and we only have 2 or 3 more weeks until everybody votes on this. So it's not an ideal situation. I think the select board is probably going to stick to the 108 figure, and I am optimistic the town meeting will overrule us.
To be clear, for speaking as Build Brookline's Future for a moment, the numbers that we've always campaigned on were set very conservatively, and they're set, I think, at 120 or 121, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't telling people something that would be increased later. So even the $119 million budget would be basically what we've been telling people in terms of their tax increase so far. If you were to go with the school committee's 2 sections of office space in addition and bring it up to 122, then we're getting nervous. But we set our messaging very conservatively to account for exactly this possibility.
Yeah. So I mean, at 108, it's unlikely. I'm not an architect or builder, or have any knowledge in general, but it's unlikely that they will be able to find a way to put in offices. They would be required to find a way to reduce the size of the building, whether that's by reducing the size of classes, I assume there's some room there, or reducing the number of classes, or other changes to the educational program that will be necessary. I guess my concern is that I want to make sure that this debt exclusion passes. And going beyond what we've always said was the figure, even though people should know that there is cost escalation, over, the 9 months or 7 months since the May override. I see going above, like you suggest, as just too risky a proposition, given the current mood in this town, and given the fact that we a very good proposal last year was rejected, or in May was rejected by the voters, and some of the people in opposition are looking at this project with an eagle eye, and have already threatened, that if we go too high, that they will come out again. So,
if I can just add, I think what. As a voter, what I want to see, and I know that you all have put this out, and is not the cost of the building overall, is what is going to be the impact on me. Yeah. If I were a homeowner or as a renter, what might the potential impact be on me? But at least for homeowners, we have a good sense of, the difference between that original 108 figure and maybe a revised 115 figure. Do you have those numbers?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
In fact, after you're done, the meeting right outside this door is a palm card with exactly that, the tax impact for everyone on, again, setting conservatively for a $120 million budget.
Okay.
And it's important to note that the changes we're talking about here are $2 a month in your tax bill between 108 and 115. For a condo owner, for example, and it's slightly different for different categories of people. So, so we're not ultimately talking about a huge amount. And I would say, $2 a month to safeguard the educational mission of the building and not to require removing pre-Ks or special education classrooms or whatever else we'd have to shed is well worth the money.
I'm concerned, and Chair Green's remarks reminded me of this issue, which is that it looks as if the board is going to stick to 108, and if the project committee feels that it has to cut out of the project in order to meet that budget, that it not cut the extra classrooms that are going for enrollment. This was one of the reasons we agreed way back when to do Driscoll, even though it's a very small portion and not what we need in total. We do need it, and to renovate the Driscoll just to be renovating the Driscoll is not a benefit to the town in the way that we had envisioned it. So I would really not be happy if that were the outcome, and I would want you to know that that is not would not be acceptable.
And to be clear, that's why
me,
I moved
anyway.
the 115 number, right? I wanted to make
Well,
sure that.
I think that's clear that this board at least is not going to go for the 115. So,
So would anyone like to make a motion to reconsider warrant Article 4 or have our vote on that? Seeing none. 108 it is.
Well, let me ask you this before you cut it off. I obviously can't move for reconsideration since I abstained, but I'm curious as to whether the motion that we passed does affirmatively include fossil fuel free. And this board, the members have said that they want that, and so how are we going to make sure that that's incorporated in our motion?
So I think we need to hear from Werner on how Sandy's going to structure the debate and the division of the question. So
Yeah, I can briefly answer it too. There will be 5 votes. The vote on the fossil fuel-free nature will be separate from the others.
And it will apply to all the motions.
Yes, it will apply to all the motions.
And as I understand, town meeting voted to require fossil fuel free in all future.
So if you look back
Schools.
at the advisory committee report, unfortunately, there was a bit of
Ambiguity.
hedging on that, and some advisory committee members perhaps noted specifically that the schematic design was for fossil fuel free, but it allowed the town to reserve the right to build not fossil fuel free if the schematic design was unsuitable for some reason. And it's also been mentioned that warrant Article 21 seems like it would apply, but the timing of warrant Article 1 and the possible Attorney General review make that not a completely certain issue as well. I agree that it's certainly the town's intent, and it just seemed that there's enough of a window here that I wanted to make sure that that language was included explicitly in the motion, and thanks to Warner's motion to divide, that we'll have a vote, a up-down vote on that.
What I would just say is that one thing I would slightly disagree with Scott about is that I don't think there was anything reserved. The only thing that was in front of the town meeting when that vote was taken, the only thing it could do was to say that money would not be spent on gas design during schematic. So I don't think there was any intent anywhere to reserve a decision for later. It was the opposite, that this is the only way it should go forward. And again, I don't really have much to say because, from the climate point of view, I and most people are somewhat agnostic about the money, that there is money in the budget for fossil fuel things, and our concern, only reason for my motion is just to make sure that that those two things are voted separately. And from what I hear that the general support of that, I'm very pleased, and I would hope that, I don't know whether you want to do it formally or formally anything else, it seems to me you can kind of reconsider just that part of it, perhaps, I don't know your procedures. But, I'm satisfied to the extent that I'm just trying to make sure those two things are separate, so that we don't end up losing fossil fuel free and confusion about the money. And as I said, as Scott described it, is exactly right. The moderator has said that the first vote will be just whether to separate, whether to pass my motion to divide the question, and then if that passes, then the next vote will be whether to remove the fossil fuel-free language or not. So I vote no on that. People can say, yes, we reaffirm the commitment that town meeting has made several times that go fossil fuel-free.
Okay.
So you're saying you don't think we need to vote specifically to include that in our motion if someone will move to reconsider, because it will be taken up.
So why don't I move that we just take a vote, a straw poll, or whatever the case may be, to see if we affirm our commitment to building this building fossil fuel free. And then I think Heather, who's speaking on this, can be empowered to say the board has proactively said that this is important to them and they expect that this building be fossil fuel free, and we can deal with the number separately. Does that make sense to everybody?
I think, yeah,
Well,
I think that's acceptable.
I think the problem with that, we don't know what town meeting's going to do. So if town meeting accepts this board's version of the article, and it doesn't have the fossil-free language in it, what does that mean? Or if it accepts one of the other versions that doesn't have the fossil-free language in it, what does that mean? So I just want to ensure, if there's going to be an actual vote by town meeting, that no matter which version passes, the school will be fossil fuel free. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, so
But I'm not clear that
So-
that's,
yeah.
from what Werner's saying, I'm not clear that that's what.
Well, presumably, a statement by the select board will have some influence.
Yeah, the way I see the options of it, I think what Member Franco says would work because it communicates the basic idea clearly enough that people figure it out. The other way is to be a little more parliamentary under, I guess, a motion saying that the board supports voting no on the, voting yes on the motion to divide the question, and no on the next question with regard to fossil fuel free, and then to say what you want to vote on as the vote.
I'd rather just leave it as is.
Well, that's what I'm going to do that, but I have trouble remembering which is yes and which is no, what order they come in, and I think Mr. Franco said basically that it conveys the essence of it.
My comments basically affirm that the select board had the intention that fossil fuel free would be incorporated in the 108 number. But if we want to,
I think you can say that. We don't need to vote for it, but if you want to.
I think it's stronger if you've got a vote.
okay. If we're gonna do it, we gotta do it, because
Well,
we've
make
got
your motion.
14 minutes left.
Right, and
Yep.
3 more articles, I think
Yep.
we'll just do one, though.
Okay, well, so my motion is that the board affirm its commitment to the construction of the Driscoll School as a fossil fuel-free building.
All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye,
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Okay, next, Oak Street resolution. Question of whether we're going to reconsider our original position, which is that we have authority to sell,
So I
but
believe
no
this-
mandate.
I believe this motion is in addition to the motion under Article 5. So this is a resolution that's currently being contemplated by the advisory committee. If the advisory committee does not vote to support it, it will be moved by John Doggett and Cliff Brown.
So the advisory committee voted the resolution as a policy recommendation rather than an ask to town meeting for ratification.
So is it not being moved at all, or?
I believe it's not being moved by the advisory committee. I believe that 2 town meeting members are going to move it, Mr. Doggett and Mr. Brown.
So that's the option for the board as well.
So is there any reason why we should reconsider?
Well, so I think it would be helpful to me as the speaker if I get a sense of the board as to whether the, we're open to the concept that's explored in the motion, which is we're happy to hold the building as long as the schools pay for it, and in exchange for that transfer of risk, they assume any upside, which is fine with me. If the schools want to pay for it, the carrying costs, then that's fine. We
Well,
can.
they're saying that they're earning rent that would cover the cost. So what do you want to do? Reconsider or not?
I agree with what Ben articulated, that if, I believe we should keep it, and I don't believe we should sell it. I think we should, we don't know what future needs are going to be, and we already know how much we struggle for land in this town, and we have some now, and so I don't think it's prudent to sell it, especially if we can get rent for it and cover the cost. So
Do we need a motion? Or do we?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there's going to be a resolution introduced, a second resolution, so whether you want to take a position on that is really up to you.
The second resolution is what's in here on what did it say?
Is that right, Melissa?
This yellow supplement?
It should say John Doggett.
Yes,
Advisory Committee Board, John Doggett.
Right.
yes.
Yeah, we'll show you.
Well,
So like so many things, I guess, just to be clear, this is not immediately selling it. It's just authorizing the select board to sell it.
Don't need to take a position because urging yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I recommend that we not vote, or not reconsider, and just move on.
But are we open to this concept of if the schools pay for it, we're willing to hold the property?
I don't know what the point of that is.
I'm not. I mean, seeing the way the town-school partnership has gone over the years, the money comes from the town no matter how you slice and dice it. The figures that I've seen is that it's cheaper to rent the office space that we have considered putting at Oak Street ever since the Baldwin project got voted down. And without major renovation that would be like $10 million, it's not like we had enough money for Maimonides, so the money has to come from somewhere.
Right, or we can lease it or rent it to tenants.
At not even the cost,
No, we can
not
cover
even
the.
at market rate cost.
Melissa,
It's not
can we
covering its
cover
own
the
costs right now.
interest rate with rent?
In year 3, we would need to,
Well, how about year 1 and 2?
where the rents in year 1 are not covered by the rent,
Well, not our current rents, but rents, market rents
we
in
don't know
the
what the
neighborhood.
rate for rent is. Can't answer that.
School department thinks they can get $4,000 a month for it.
Well, then don't come to us asking for any more money.
All right.
So, unless there's interest in reconsideration, we'll move on to the next one. Do we have time? Why don't we put the next 2 warrant articles, T-Pod requirements and citizen complaints, off until tomorrow?
So I think this is a pretty simple one. It's just coming into line with the advisory committee by adding an additional use.
Okay.
It is very simple.
Hi, I'm Linda Olson-Palke, and what this is reconciling your voted version with the advisory committee. And the only changes are that we've added a provision to allow for special permits to exceed the maximums. And planning board, EDAB, they all liked that idea. So we're, Paul and I that's our favored option. And also, we're putting back in marijuana delivery businesses, which accidentally got taken out by the advisory. That's the only changes.
Okay.
Super simple.
Okay, motion for reconsideration. I move reconsideration. All in favor, Franco.
Aye.
Heller.
aye.
Hamilton.
Aye.
Fernandez.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Let's vote on the advisory committee amendments. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor, Mr. Franco?
Aye.
Ms. Heller?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Citizens' complaints, I think, is a much longer conversation. We should do that.
Yeah, I think you should announce that you're going to adjourn this meeting and continue it until whatever times. It's
Right.
probably 6
6
p.m.
tomorrow,
It's good,
right.
yeah.
Okay. We will adjourn this meeting, continue it until 6 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, November 20th. Thank you.